welcome back. So we are starting outside with our spray paint. I am doing basic ultra black, doesn't really matter what kind of black, I just want the middle of the tumbler to be black. This is a 30-ounce straight from the Glitter Ranch. I went ahead and kind of spray painted like the whole middle part black because I wanted the other colors like this one, the seaside, to come in, and I wanted it to kind of blend in with the black. So I did the top part there and I let it go down into the black, and then we're going to come back and use the black to kind of fix that piece up. So this was just that top part. Now I'm going to use this berry pink, and we're going to do the bottom. And I'm going to do the bottom, and I'm going to do like up towards that black area there. Now, after this, after I get all that done, I'm going to go back and clean it up with my black so I can make it a lot more, you know, even and kind of an ombre look. Now, after that, I come back with the pink, and I do move it down here in a second. I started it out up higher, and I was like, oh, I need to bring it down. So I started kind of making like splatters and almost deliberately doing drips on the paint because I wanted there to be somewhat of like a blood splatter, blood drip kind of look coming off of that pink. So when I set it to dry upside down, a lot of that paint came dripping down. Not a lot, but just enough to make my point. And I also, just so you know, I cleaned up all that spray paint there with a water hose. So here I put a very thin layer of epoxy on here, and I'm starting with these three glitters from the Glitter Ranch, which is Opal Key, Sawzall Chunky, and Sawzall Iridescent Fine, and then the USS Voyager from Peachy Olive Glitter. I absolutely love this black color with those colors that I chose from the Glitter Ranch because it has like pinks and kind of green mixes in there. And if you wanted to do something like this, you could definitely take like Pirate or something like that and then kind of mix it in a little bit, add a little bit of pink and green in there, and then go do this. But I already had that, and so I thought it would work perfectly. So I laid just a foundation of that USS Voyager in the middle. I didn't want it to cover the whole thing, so I just kind of laid down in the middle there, and then I took the Sawzall Chunky and kind of blended that into that black part there. And you see how we have those drips? I didn't want them to be completely obvious, but I wanted them to be kind of underneath. So I went in with the iridescent fine of the Sawzall to cover up, to make sure that we really got a full coverage on that pink. And I'm really kind of letting it go down into that black a lot. And then I just poured a little bit down on my paper here and stuck my bottom right in the middle. I didn't want to do too much of that chunky Sawzall on the bottom because then that causes your bottom to get all wobbly. So then with that teal, this is a pretty see-through kind of glitter, and so I wanted that base to be that darker teal. I knew it was going to lighten it up a little bit, and that's what I wanted. The color that I was going for, I knew this was going to kind of come together perfectly. And this is actually a glow-in-the-dark glitter. So there's like glitter and there's glow-in-the-dark powder at the same time. So it has a different consistency than like most glitters. So it's so you just kind of have to. You don't want to open up the bigger side and pour it all out, but it does kind of take a lot for you to pour it out from the smaller side too. But anyways, it looks really cool at the end. So after that, I went in and, as Jessica Flynn would say, I just let it rip on all of that USS Voyager. I made sure that I was going all the way into that green there. And what I was doing with this look was, I was matching the picture that I found of Michael Myers, but I wanted it to have kind of like this real kind of edgy, like tearaway. I don't know, I can't explain it, but it was like I wanted it to have this kind of, I don't know, a grungy look. I'm not exactly sure what kind of, but I knew that this was what I wanted, and I was very, very happy with the results. So if it looks like that, that was intentional. So there is quite a bit of chunky here in the middle and on the bottom, so I just took the whole thing and rolled it in my parchment paper to make sure that it went flat. And that just allows you to have less layers of epoxy later on. Just make sure that those chunkies are flat. So I decided I would try this clear glitter glue adhesive from the Crystal Light company. They had a sale on it, and I've heard some really good things about it, so I thought, you know what, I'll grab some and we'll try it out. So I have heard that you can use it to apply the glitter and you can use it to seal the glitter. So I thought, what a perfect opportunity. I'm not trying to keep this absolutely perfect, you know, as far as like glitter mixing or whatever. So I thought, you know, this would be a perfect time for me to try it. So it is very similar to Mod Podge, but then it also is similar to polyacrylic. So I'm not exactly sure what it is made of and what it is consists of, but it did seal the glitter in very, very well. And when I went to do the layer of epoxy, the first layer of epoxy, it went on super, super smooth. But I did have a little bit of issue once it was cured. So the epoxy went on smooth and it cured fine, but there was a little bit of fish eyes in there. Now, I'm not 100% sure if it was because of the chunky glitter or if it was the glitter glue, but we'll see. So now we get into the design. What I've done here is I've done a water slide of Michael Myers Halloween, and it's kind of a neon lights 80s, 90s look. I'm not sure, but that's what I wanted to go for. I didn't want the typical blood red everything. I wanted to do something different and something fun, and so this was where I came up with that. When I found this, I went with it. I thought this is going to be cute. This is going to be something different, you know. Anyways, I've already said that. But so what I did here was take the image of the Michael Myers, that knife image, and I made it a regular cut. So I brought it in as a print and cut, and then I made it a regular cut, and it will give you just this base, this blank, you know, look of the shape. And what I've done is, because I wanted it to go on that black spot, I did the white vinyl, and then what I'm going to do on top of that white vinyl is put the water slide so that we have a beautiful base that is coming through that's white, and it'll give us that perfect background that we need for that black. So I always print 2 water slides because it is inevitable for me to screw something up. If I don't, well, then I didn't, and I have 1 extra. If not, fine, I printed 2, and we had to use both of them. So anyways, I was cutting them out. I was cutting this one out, you know, cutting it as close to the edge as possible. Water slides usually disappear once the, you know, like the outer rim of it usually fades away when you put epoxy on it. But I always try to make sure that it's eliminated as much as possible, if you will. And because we were putting this on that white vinyl, I just wanted to make sure that it was kind of covering just that, and so that's why I did it. So I have this to-go container, I think Payway is what it's I love that place. Anyways, I was like, this would be a perfect little container that I can keep. And so I washed it out, and then I was like, oh, I can use it for my water slides, because usually they're not so big. But anyways, I keep that in my craft room and just kind of fill it up with fresh water whenever I need to. So anyways, I put a little bit of the water from the back side on there after it started coming off, and I slid the back off. Now, this one was all kinds of jacked up. I don't know what happened, but the whole side of it got folded into itself, and Michael Myers' face got folded into itself, and it was a big old mess. And I tried and tried and tried, but this is why you print 2 water slides. That's all I'm saying. So at this point, I had pulled and cracked it, and it was a big old mess. So I just said, let's cut the new one, let's cut the second one, and let's try this again, and let's do this right. So and this is why you print 2. I'm just saying, because things happen and you just never know. If you don't need the second one, then good on you, you did great, but that's there just in case. So anyways, that's why you always print 2. So I did the second one, and I was like, okay, I'm not going to pull it from the top. I'm going to try to pull it from the side and maneuver this, you know, appropriately so we do not screw this up, because I did not want to have to print another one. So this one came off much better, and I was able to finagle it over that white vinyl much easier. I was able to move it around, and it came, there was no bending, there was no, you know, no issues. Until a little bit later, I had a little bit of cracking in his face, but I'm not sure. I sealed it like 3 times, so who knows? Maybe it's the water slide. Maybe it's I didn't leave it in the water long enough. I don't know, but it happens. Things happen. But he was already kind of, you know, distressed in its look, so it didn't cause too many problems. But man, those dang water slides, this is why I don't usually do water slides, but I really wanted the look of that with the vinyl behind it. I really had an image in my mind, and so I knew this was going to bring me that look. And I look at it for a while and make sure that I don't need to spread it, you know, pull it anymore, pop any bubbles or anything like that. And I just took a towel and I just lightly, and this towel is like, it's not very absorbent, so it actually works out perfect for the water slide, because it doesn't like take too much of the moisture off, because you need the moisture on there for it to dry. So I found this this font on Creative Fabrica, and I will definitely link it below. But I used this really cool fuchsia pink holographic. It came in the Miami mix, I think is what it was. It was like 3 different colors from Cricut, and it was like holographic, but it's a red base on the bottom, and then there's holographic on the top. So I knew it would be really cool to add this to the back side and do that dripping font, so it would be matching in the sense that it would kind of look like blood. This thing was a pain. I don't know what happened, but it was stuck to the back of this paper so bad. Anyways, I finally eventually got it off, but so that's what I was doing there. So it had this like holographic pinky kind of red drippy look, and so it just really came across exactly what I was thinking, because I didn't want any of this to be so literal, right? I wanted to do something more fun than it be like, you know, you have a blood dripping cup. I just wanted it to have some more fun. So this really added an element to it that I really enjoyed. So I am so proud to announce that I have become an affiliate with my artistry epoxy. It is my favorite. I use it every day. I absolutely love it for the way I work, my environment, everything. I have no issues with it. Now what I do here, this is a perfect example of, I take a little candle warmer here, and I just have a jar that I fill up with water, and I make sure that it's hot. And when I put the water in there, and then I stick it on the heater, and I let it sit in that warm water bath for probably, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I just kind of put it in there when I first start working or doing whatever I'm doing. And then by the time I kind of get ready for the epoxy, it's nice and heated up. So at this point, A is coming out super fast and smooth, because it is nice and warm, and it loves to be warm. B, you just pour that in there. I always pour B first, and then I pour my A, because it will react, because it's like hot, so it will go down and then it'll come back up. So I just kind of let the B sit there a little bit, and then I go get the A, and then I pour it in there, and I usually get a perfect balance of like right across. And I use this little stand here so that I can see at eye level where the epoxy is. So I can see that it's level with each one of those little cups, so we're getting an equal amount of A and B. And so I know this, I think this is different from most people, but I do actually mix the B into the A, because it just mixes better. I don't know, that it just goes into that warm bath of that A, and it just mixes so beautifully. I have no problems with it doing this. And I do mix it with a popsicle stick. I have used many different types of silicone, blah blah blah, this and that, and I always clean them with baby wipes. I mean, I don't know how else to clean them, but I get so many little fibers from them. So I quit using that. I use a popsicle stick and it works out perfectly fine and I get no lint. Usually I use an epoxy mixer, but this was just, I was just using that, but I did this for about 3 to 5 minutes. So I'm not sure exactly what happened in the video. I'm not sure if I didn't record it or if I accidentally deleted it, but anyways, I took these three, that one mica that's in the middle and the 2 glow powders that are from the Glitter Ranch, the pink and the purple, and that in the middle is some kind of like a fuchsia kind of pinky red color. And then I took this pink fuchsia paint, this glow paint that I've used many times, and I will definitely add all of this down below so you'll have everything there. And I just mixed and mixed and mixed and mixed and put this and put that and felt like it needed a little bit more purple, a little bit more red, a little bit more pink, a little bit more paint. And I just mixed it and mixed it and mixed it until I came up with an exact match of the color that I wanted for the Michael Myers. Pink blood on his knife. So I let this sit. And when I say I let this sit, I let it sit for, I timed it because I wanted to make sure that you guys would have an idea of how long I let it sit. And it was almost 2 hours. I would say maybe like 1 hour and 45 minutes. I just kept mixing it and watching it and doing other things and watching videos, and I made myself breakfast. Like went and did a bunch of stuff. And so I just kept looking up at the clock. There's a clock right above my head on that wall that's right in front of me here. And I just kept looking up there and I was like, okay, I'm starting at about, it was like 10:45. I don't know. I can't remember exactly. I think it was like 45. And I literally was like almost 2 hours later that this was ready to mess with it like this. So I realized that I had it above and I was like, no, I need to bring this down next to me so that you can actually see the way I'm putting these on here. Now I just used my popsicle stick and it was very sticky and very stringy at this point, but that is exactly what I wanted. I did not want these drips to go down very far, so this was what I wanted. And right there you can see I have gloves on both hands because of this particular reason right here, that if I get like a string of epoxy that's kind of going awry from where I want it to be, I have the glove on, I can immediately like push it and move it or wipe it off or whatever I need to do. So I just took my popsicle stick and I just kept getting pieces of the epoxy, and I mixed up 20 milliliters, and then I mixed up the glow powder and the mica and the paint in there as well. So I wasn't sure how much I was going to need, but I thought I'll just do 20. And then once it gets really thick, it's going to be harder to work with. So you might need a little bit more than you might think. So I probably threw away 5 milliliters of it, but I was fine with that because I felt like I got what I needed, and I would rather have more than not enough, you know. So I kind of kept this at regular speed because I wanted y'all to see, you know, how I was doing this. And it was like very stringy, and I kept meticulously kind of pulling it back and putting it on top of the little pile that I was making there. And don't worry about the strings and all of that, because it will level itself out. As it's falling, as it's dripping, it will even out, and those lines and those drips will not be there once you get done. So see that the lines and the little stringies have already gone on that side. So don't worry, don't fret. It is going to be okay. They are going to go away. So now I'm speeding it up because obviously I don't want this to be like a 40-minute long video. So I'm not going to add all of the drips, but I wanted y'all to see and know, you know, that the first on how, just get a feel for how slow and how meticulous I was being. And this is how I was the whole time. And see, I kept kind of pulling it up and showing y'all that it is going to be stringy. It is going to be messy. And that's why I had gloves on. I'm just put gloves on both hands, ready to go, you know, so you can do those types of things whenever you need to. Plus the popsicle stick was getting like really messy. The little cup of epoxy was getting messy. So you just want to protect yourself in that sense. So I just kept bringing it up and showing how it was getting really, really stringy. And once you get to this point, you need to be ready to sit down and work, because it's going to get harder and harder and harder to work with. So you want to be ready to go. Like, once you reach the point of, okay, this is where I want to be with this drip. This is this is the consistency I want. This is the whatever. Then this is where you need to keep going and do it right then and there. Don't stop. Be ready to work at that point. And I went all the way around with all of the epoxy that I had at first. I went around and did all of the whole rim, and then I went back and decided where I was going to add more of the drip. So now I've really sped it up because we're getting into like a longer video than I wanted here. But I wanted to show you, after I did that, I just went around and kind of added a drip here, added a drip there, you know, added a little bit more to a certain drip or whatever. But it is getting really hard to work with this epoxy now. And so, you know, this has only been maybe 10-15 minutes that I've been doing this, and so it's at this point you can really see how it's getting very hard and it's really wanting to be stringy. And so I was trying to maneuver and kind of twist it around so that it will even out, but I didn't want it to be like too askew from the rest of the look of the drips. And I also was making sure that the drips for the Michael Myers right there, I was making sure that I didn't want too many drips coming down. I didn't want anything coming on top of him or the initials on the back. So make sure when you're doing it that you are watching the drips and you are, you know, making sure that you're not putting too much there for it to fall too far into your design. Or if that's what you want, then do it that way. But I'm just saying, just be aware of where you want them. So I wanted to show y'all real quick that was basically what I had left over. So maybe 5 milliliters left at the bottom there. And that was pretty hard at that point, so I couldn't really do much more with it. So probably after about 20-30 minutes maybe of playing around with this, I was like, okay, we've got enough epoxy on here, or we've got enough drips, and I've got one that's coming all the way down. I've got these here and there. So I just kind of was like, okay, I'm gonna check and make sure that I don't need anything more on here. And I just thought I'm gonna add 1 or 2 more. And so you just kind of have to, whatever you feel, whatever it looks like, you are going to come back and kind of mess with it, but don't mess with it too much. But it will even out. It will start to smooth and do its thing, do what epoxy does. So don't fret too much about any of those like imperfections in there. So at this point, I was pointing right there at that drip right there. I'm worried that is going to come down onto his face, and so I am going to flip this upside down at this point, and I'm going to let it sit for a while upside down. And I'm going to do that probably a couple more times, where I put it upside down and put it right back up, and just to make sure that those drips were not going anywhere more than I wanted. So I let those drips dry just as long as I would let 12 hours or whatever, 8-12 hours. I wanted to make sure that they were good and set in their, where they wanted to be, and that was cured. And I went in with a coat of epoxy. This is my Artistry epoxy here. This was on top of the vinyl. I did not do anything on top of the vinyl or the water slide. I just did the drips there because I knew it was going to get pretty thick. So I just left the water slide and the vinyl on there, and then did the drips, and then we went in, and this is the coat that is covering up the vinyl and covering up the water slide. And now we are going to cover up the drips. I mean, we're covering up the drips at the same time, so that way we're not having too much epoxy on there, because with the drips it can get pretty heavy. So I am taking the epoxy and I'm just taking my finger and I'm kind of going into the little places of the drip right there, and just kind of making sure that we are that I'm getting all of the drips, and I'm getting all in those little crevices. But you can get epoxy to kind of pool up in there, so you just want to make sure that you are kind of spreading it out and pulling it away. But then also make sure you get the top, because you want to make sure you're getting the top rim so that you are sealing that rim. If you need to sand it down or whatever a little bit. I had already dremeled the rim before I did the drips, because I knew that all I would have to do is kind of do a little bit of sanding and get a rim that I could put the epoxy on to attach to that stainless steel. That way I wouldn't have to drill through, or, you know, Dremel through all of the drips and the glitter that was already there underneath. So then once I get enough epoxy on there, make sure that it has a good, nice coat. This Artistry epoxy is pretty thick, and then because you heat up side A, it gets even thicker. So it will take a little bit more epoxy than you're used to on some other ones, like a Luminite or whatever. So it's just, but I love it because it gives you such a thick, awesome coat. So then, as usual, I take my heating gun and I just you know, heat it up, make sure that we pop any bubbles and get it kind of smooth and even. So 2 final coats later, we had our cup finished. And I just love the look of this. I love, love, love the combination of the colors and the look and just the content. I don't know, just everything about it. I love it. I took it outside and I spin it around for maybe like 15-30 seconds, if that. And I take it back inside and it is glowing. It's glowing before I even get in the dark. And I wanted to show you guys this. I wanted to show you how awesome this glow powder is. And I want you to please like and subscribe. Please join my group. Please tag me if you redo this. And guys, I'll see you next time.